Okay, welcome everyone. As we've put out there before, here we are representing for the city of Glenarden, and we're having our forum on Black History Month, focusing on mental health and wellness. Now, keep in mind that we'll be able to distinguish some things and point out some errors and inform on some things on Black history. Now, although we probably should support and do things speaking about on Black History Month every month, we're still going to point out some things today, and we hope that some people walk away encouraged and inspired and well informed. I'm going to go ahead and first and foremost introduce myself. I am your moderator and host, T. Wood, creator and host of Triumphant Moments with T. Wood podcast. I'm going to go ahead and allow everyone else to go ahead and introduce themselves. Go ahead.
So hello, this is Mayor Cashenna A. Cross from the city of Glenarden. This is my mayoral forum, and I have chosen to make this mayoral forum about the national objective, mental health and wellness in our communities. As we sit here in Black History Month, I recognize that there is a dire need for us to bring to the forefront the knowledge, the responsibility to uphold that which we have created so long ago, the journey of the African-American persons here along our path. I am a native Mississippian, born here, grown in the city of Glenarden, came by way of the United States military. So 20 years and then retired. So I am here currently working with the Department of Defense, hired by the citizens of Glenarden, elected to the office of mayor. It has brought me such joy and opportunities to serve our citizens, and that's why this forum has been put together for a continued birth of a renewed spirit of community. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. Next up, President Delaney.
I'm Marvin Delaney, retired history professor, and currently president of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. This is, of course, the organization founded by Dr. Carter G. Woodson in 1915. We published the Journal of African American History, and we also publish the Black History Bulletin. Personally, I was born in Alabama, raised in Ohio, and attended an HBCU in Ohio, Central State University and Ohio State University.
Absolutely. President Thornton Thomas.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Linda Thornton Thomas. I'm so pleased to be here. I'm the president of the Prince George's County NAACP, and I look forward to this conversation. And I just want to say that I was a former principal in actually 3 states, and work for the U.S. Department of Ed. And we've talked a lot about Black history, and this is a great opportunity to share our thoughts. And hopefully you'll enjoy the conversation, as I know you will. Thank you.
Absolutely. Awesome. If you all don't mind, I would like to step into a quick small moment of prayer. All right. All minds and hearts focused in the right place. Father God, I ask you in the name of Jesus, Lord, that you give us the strength. First and foremost, we thank you for bringing us together, having these special individuals in this place at this time. God, I pray that the things that are in our mind and in our hearts, to the level of our sincerity, leaks out through our words. We pray, we thank you for the love that exists. We thank you for the continued encouragement, and we acknowledge the opportunity to inform someone here tonight. Amen.
Yeah.
All right. So look, let's go ahead and jump right into it. President Delaney, you know this is a family atmosphere, so I'm gonna call you Marvin. It's all love here. Look, I want to go ahead and step into something here for you. Now, this particular question is directed at you for this one here. If anyone else wants to jump in, feel free, but this is specifically for you. Now, knowing the past opened doors to a better and more inclusive future, presently, in what ways has ASALH ensured Black History Month remains relevant today?
Well, as you know, we've been doing Black History Month. Of course, we started with Negro History Week in 1926, and then it became Black History Month in 1976. And basically, what we've tried to do is pick a theme for Black History Month that will appeal to people, that will address current issues, and be relevant to our both our past and our present, and obviously our future. As you know, this month, the theme this year, starting with this month, is Black health and wellness. So it's very apropos and relevant to the topic that we're addressing tonight. You know, we've picked these themes in order to make Black History Month dynamic, as basic is what I want to say. For example, in 2020, we picked the theme of African Americans in the vote. Why? Because 2020 was a presidential election year, and we wanted to bring it to the attention of African Americans as well as others about the significance of participating in the electoral process. And so now, you know, even though we picked this topic or this theme of Black health and wellness probably 2 years ago, obviously we've got a topic that's in the forefront. You know, African Americans have been disproportionately affected by the coronavirus. And so here's an opportunity then for us to look at our past health and wellness issues, and of course, look at what's happening currently, and hopefully, you know, in terms of the future, help African Americans know we need to take the vaccine just like everybody else.
I want to kind of reap and kind of harp off of that particular question. Now I want to direct this at you again here now. Looking back into our history a bit, let's say the 1920s saw the rise and interest in African American culture that was represented by the Harlem Renaissance. Now, Dr. Delaney, as president of ASALH, could you speak into the, let's say, the research, preservation, interpretation, and disseminated information about Black life in the present century?
Sure. As you know, the Harlem Renaissance was indeed one of the first African American Renaissances in the 20th century. And what African Americans were attempting to do, because there's actually been three, but I'll just deal with a couple of them. Again, the Harlem Renaissance, and then what we call the Black Arts Movement of the 1960s, in which we attempted to use our culture and our history and our art to sort of redefine ourselves. You know, we live in a society that defines us in all kinds of negative ways, and in fact, even attacks our culture and our history. So what ASALH has been doing since its founding in 1915 by Dr. Woodson is indeed preserving, doing research on our experience, publishing that research in the Journal of Negro History, and of course it's currently called the Journal of African American History, encouraging young people to study their history. In fact, when Negro History Week was started in 1926, it was primarily aimed at young people, and even though it was, you know, sort of focused on the second week of February, Negro History Week was supposed to be the culmination of a year-long study and research by young people looking at their history and culture, because there was nowhere else that they were going to get it. And I say that from experience. You know, again, you heard that I grew up in Ohio. So I went through 12 years of school, and unfortunately, you know, I went to an integrated school, and so they didn't teach us one thing, anything about any African or African American man or woman who had ever done anything in history. And that's 12 years of that. And so what ASALH has been doing then is producing materials so that teachers can infuse and integrate the African American experience sort of into the major narrative and into the curricula throughout the country. And again, a couple of school districts we know for sure, Philadelphia and Chicago, have made the study of the African American experience a required course.
Well, I tell you what, I really appreciate you pointing that out. Something very important. Now, if we're going to change lanes, I want to change lane a bit. Uh, President Thornton Thomas, Mayor Cross, I'd like to direct this particular question for y'all. Now, let's be quite frank here. All right. None of us are immune to the challenges that we're facing in our homes and community during this pandemic. With that being said, what are some mental, emotional challenges that you all have noticed amongst your peers or within the community?
If I may, thank you so much for that question. And I'm just going to piggyback on Dr. Delaney's statement there for Black History Month and the need for us to obtain favorable feedback.
Mm.
So one of the things that I've noticed just as the municipality mayor is the social media stream is ever powerful. It's taken off to a level of uncontrollability that right now, the accesses that we had when Black History Month was formulated, the ability for us to now learn our history, we have taken a lesser stance, if you will, I believe, collectively as a community to ensure that that is brought to fruition. And it's just like Dr. Delaney said, when I came through, and I'm much younger, there wasn't really programs that talked to us about African-American history, but there were communities, leaders, organizations like our civic associations that took to the forefront to make sure that that happened, that we had programming available, and also our churches. We could never negate the African-American church, the heritage of which many of us stand on. Many of us learned to sing our first note in the church choir.
Come on now.
So it's very important that we bring that out too, the importance of community. But that favorable feedback based on the question that you just asked in COVID-19 took so many of us and put us on the network. Young children in kindergarten are now able to teach their great grandmothers and how to log into TikTok and other social media platforms that don't necessarily bring a favorable light to any demographic, Black or other color. So it is very important that in this future, the behavioral change and interventions and strategies that as a municipality, organizations, NAACP, ASALH, that we engage our communities to enhance interventions that is acceptable, that unify and bring efficiency to our communities, faith-based organizations, and decrease the stigma that is associated with mental health challenges in Black America.
I can appreciate that. President Thornton Thomas, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Well, I'm going to just ditto as well, because the information that you just heard from the last two individuals, and they have shared great information. I just want to say that I do agree with everything. As a former principal, I've worked a lot with children, and of course, I do some family counseling. And I can tell you that this COVID has enlightened people as to how to coordinate their schedules, how to talk a little bit better with their neighbors, how to communicate with their coworkers a little bit better. And all of it comes down to, in my opinion, fear. People were afraid of the COVID. They were afraid of what would happen. They did not know. They had not prepared themselves. And the children are watching their parents and thinking, if mom's upset or dad's nervous, then how do I react? And that has been a problem. And so the one thing I think that, and I want to encourage everyone to do this, is that there are resources out there, and we're not always using those resources. For instance, almost every health plan has at least 6 visits that you can go and talk with a therapist, opportunities for some social interaction with individuals who can give you a chance to discuss your personal problems or issues, or just talk to you about everyday life. And we don't take advantage of that because it is such a stigma. It is embarrassing. People think of it's terrible. I am going to, and I've been doing this, and I'm going to also ask our viewers if they would consider looking at the people around you, your family, your friends, and have a conversation with them to say that it's nothing wrong with having someone to talk to. I mean, I've heard this many times from the wives to the husband. He's not listening to me, or she's not listening to me. And so sometimes you need that outside person to take the stress off. And it is so important that you share that you have your time to speak out, but to also let people know that it's nothing wrong with going out and having a conversation with someone. So I do encourage people to do that. And this has been a perfect time to follow through with that.
Very, very, very. I appreciate that, President
So
Thomas. I actually wanted to first transition, from that particular point. You actually ran into a particular piece that I wanted to point out. My experience, I'm a mental health professional myself, and my experience in the past has been that speaking to a mental health professional has had a stigma tied to it, in particular in the Black community. Okay. Now, stigmas like these block people from seeking care. You just begin to harp on that. Now, during this pandemic, we've seen an incredible increase. I know you've noticed that. I know you've noticed that increase that we've had and the need for mental health services. What are your, I guess, extended thoughts on that? And everyone else is free to chime in to that. But what are your extended thoughts on that, the necessity of it, and the stigma that sits behind getting some type of professional health within mental health?
Yeah. Well, I work with some of the clergy, and I have encouraged them to have conversations with their members or their parishioners to talk about it. Sometimes people, well, many years ago, let's just say this, many years ago, people used to go in and have a conversation with the pastor. Now they are a little nervous about that. And so they think, well, maybe I shouldn't share. I don't want the pastor to think anything negative about me. So they tend to not have anyone to speak to. And then, of course, that gets worse when you're not sharing with, your thoughts, and you don't share them with your children. You're not sharing them with your husband. The communication is lost in the family. People are sitting at the dinner table and they're not saying anything. So I also want to share that I think one of our problems is that people say unfortunate things that are not pleasant. They tease people about being mentally, not stable or just some issues, and they think of it as a joke. And so because of that, you don't want to talk about that. But we need to talk to our DJs that's on the radios. We need to speak to all of these people and say that we need to stop playing this game, because you're hurting people. If they don't get the help that they need, they are going to harm themselves and maybe someone else. So it is important that you take the time and think about what you're saying, and realizing that our children are impressionable, and you have to be careful, because it will happen. It'll come back and they won't know how to address their personal feelings. Yeah.
Anyone want to add to that?
I would like to add to it as well. I'm a very studious person. I use my raise my hand, lower my hand icon there, emoji. So my daughter has taught me that, my 9-year-old. But I want to acknowledge that is so very true. And, even in our county, I will acknowledge County Executive Angela Alsobrooken for what she's doing for healthy communities with the behavioral health facility that is set to open in this year group of 2022. We, providing health impacts, and additionally, for those that have addictions, that care. Those are avenues and accesses should be given. And along with that, being a member of the Department of Defense for as long as I have, over 20 plus years now, and currently still associated with the department, there is a stigmata, particularly when you are in a professional set that says you're not stable, you're not healthy. It was such an honor when, post-traumatic stress syndrome came out and the world took it by storm as a need to reach out and help. And antecedent feedback was given to allow persons who experience traumatic affairs to actually communicate that to heal. You know, my parents raised me in such a way that, you know, nothing heals if it's kept within you. It only festers and blooms out at all the wrong times.
Yeah.
And today we have seen that, you know, by us suppressing that need to communicate, we are seeing an unwellness in our communities.
Mm.
So understanding that risk factor associated with silence. In the community, mental health, silence is a deadly killer.
Mhm.
You know, in our Black families, diabetes, we don't really know that. You know, cancer, we don't get our screenings as often as we should. Mental health is no different. Check in with yourself and also community check in with your neighbors. It's one of the reasons why in this Black History Month, as a municipality, we've launched a Black History series of movies after dark, which you know, highlights and showcases members of Black excellence,
Wow.
from Hidden Figures to Selma, to Remember the Titans, to The Butler. You know, these are true life stories that our youth may not have had the acknowledgement of. And Hidden Figures talks to the NASA story right here in the state of Maryland. So this is where we are as a community, understanding that we have to take action in health to reduce the morbidity rate that is ever growing in our communities. And just recently with 5 you know, suicides that we have all personally known and have been affected by in just 3 weeks, it is time for us to break the silence and, you know, open up the arms of care.
And just really appreciate that, y'all. And just piggybacking off of that, let's all understand this. And see, I'm an energy person, okay? So I want all of the viewers to understand, in consolidating what was just said in this moment, that there is no shame in speaking to a professional and having an opportunity to express yourself with an unbiased. It is absolutely no shame in that. So whoever it may be, whoever's in your resources to get a conversation started to that where you can get some courage to step out and go seek some help, that is part of the first step to change. All right. Recognizing what is wrong. I like to say this, you know, recognizing the issue or the challenge or the problem in your life, I would consider that an ingredient of change. In order to have that step, you have to have some type of courage, some type of faith to take that next step in order to have an effort to make a difference in your life. Now, I want to show some appreciation and a love, President Delaney. There's something I really want to point out that we really need your help with on this particular question. Again, everyone feel free to chime in with this one. President Delaney, now, again, I'm going to be quite frank here. Slaves were forcefully separated and sold, yet remain resilient and strong. What caused the shaky foundation for our society today, where few things can be as worse as what our ancestors experienced and suffered?
Wow, that's a deep question. And I'm going to see if I can capsulize it and keep it brief, because that is, you know, we have historians, we have looked back at what kept families of African Americans together from slavery to freedom. So I'm sort of asking my question to myself and to the audience, and in order to answer yours. Well, one of the let me look at slavery first. As you know, indeed, families were split. According to the statistics and research that we have, about 1/3 of African American families were split during enslavement. So 2/3, or roughly 2/3, survived as a whole, and that was very, very important in the sense of family was one of the key reasons that African Americans, and I'm going to say it like this, and I'm saying it in an extreme way, didn't commit suicide while they were enslaved because of the oppression and the attack
Wow.
on them individually and their culture and so on. But it was family, it was religion, it was their culture and the things that they knew about themselves and where they came from, even though that was the slave master tried to wipe that out. Well, family historians, have said that after slavery, some families broke apart, mainly because they moved to their various parts of the community, of the state, nation. I talked about the fact, for example, that I was born in Alabama. Well, many African Americans moved from their traditional communities in the South to Chicago, to Pittsburgh, Cleveland, New York, Philadelphia, and so on. And they left the roots that sort of had bound them together and helped them sort of psychologically. That is, they were sort of an inbred sort of a community and culture that helped you with your mental health. That was there for you. And of course, we're talking about the church, obviously.
Come on.
Okay. And we're talking about the things that we do in our community, the social events, the way we raise the children, the way that we have these extended families. And indeed, when I was growing up, and because obviously I had an extended family, but the neighbors
Come on now.
were also like family. Because if I did something down the street,
Yes.
and one of the neighbors saw it before I got home, my mother knew it and father knew about it. So what we've seen, though, so some of my students used to say to me, I'm trying to make this brief. Some of my students used to say to me that we were actually better off in segregation because it forced us to stay together than with integration. Because with integration, for example, here in Dallas, most African Americans lived in the south part of the city, southern part of the city, and there were, real physical African American communities. Now with integration, African Americans have moved out. They're in Plano, they're in Duncanville, they're in these suburbs, and no longer in these central places in the city, which then means they no longer attend the same churches because they'll attend churches wherever they are. That means that they don't patronize the traditional businesses in the community. They don't read the Black newspaper like they used to. So there's been this sort of breakup of what had traditionally been the African American community. When I say African American community, I'm talking about a structure, a cultural dynamic, and all the things that goes into being a community. So when people move out, then they leave their roots, their heritage, and indeed it causes them stress, and sometimes they don't know where to turn. So whereas in slavery, again, we were able to sort of stay together and preserve our families. Integration, migration, sort of put stresses on the African American families.
And you know what? I greatly appreciate you pointing that out, Brother Marvin. I saw someone raise their hand. I believe.
Yeah, that was me, Miss Ava.
Okay.
I just want to say that religion, in my opinion, it brings a lot into this situation. I recall when I think I was only like 5 or 6 years old, and I had a friend who her father was a minister, and they went to church every Sunday, Bible studies on Wednesday, and really involved in the church. And I wasn't, nor was my family. But I'll never forget one day we were talking, and I had said a curse word. She just couldn't believe, 6 years old, I was cursing. So she asked me, she said, do you know Jesus? And at 6, I was like, I heard it. I was thinking to myself, I didn't say to her, that name sounds so familiar, So basically, to make a long story short, I mean, she ministered to me. This family, Christian family, they took me to church. Wednesday night Bible study that was singing on the choir. And I really began to know the Lord,
by this, and she had to have been like a year older than me, by, my best friend ministering to me. And my point is, in this world, in this society today, it's like people are, straying away from, Christianity. I did a thesis paper on why are all these young people, about 60% of them, they're not going to church anymore. They're into all these other different kind of, I guess you can call them religious or beliefs. And some of my kids, shot the living daylights. I said, what did you say? I was a.
It appears that you might have hit your mute button. There you go.
Mess. I was like, Lord have mercy. So my point is, that, in my opinion, is why we have a lot of mental illness, because, I don't know if you guys are Christians or not, but I am, but, they strayed away from, Almighty God. And then they started to get involved in all these different things. Is definitely is not, of God. And then that's where you have your problems.
It's interesting. I really appreciate you pointing that out there. That is an excellent suggestion. And just to consolidate what I'm hearing, it sounds like you're pointing at the level of spirituality and religion as a foundation is something that over time might have strayed, that, we as a people might have strayed away from, and that could have brought some of the issues and the mental health issues that you may see today. It sounds like that's what you're saying.
Exactly. And I mean, it's a biblical too, in Revelations, in the last and evil days, everything that's happening today is happening. It's a lot of people who, are not, Christians or not, serving Almighty God. And, some people call them Antichrist. I guess they have other names as well. But
Well,
yeah, we, in Revelations, we knew that this time and day was going to come.
Ms. Richardson, I we all really appreciate you, pointing that out. Did anyone else from the panel have anything that they wanted to chime in and say to that?
One thing that I will acknowledge, and thank you so much, Miss Richardson, for bringing forth, that powerful truth.
Right.
And also Dr. Delaney for making sure that we acknowledge that, across the whole family, the community, the family, we are our brother's keeper. It's bigger than just my immediate family, my extended family, my friends, my colleagues, my co-workers, the people at the grocery store. It takes a village. And that's what Dr. Delaney brought out a minute ago as well, that the village did not allow certain things. The village watched and protected. The village made you feel included. And as a slave, having your baby ripped from your bosom,
come on,
you can't imagine the power of the village to keep you breathing, walking, standing upright. That's where we need to go in America, to understand that in our small communities, large communities, isolation is a threat to the existence of humanity. We were created and crafted to be together. That's why God said he made two, an Adam and an Eve. That's why he made us a friend. That's why we desire friendliness. Isolation is our threat right now. And as much as we can do, particularly from the municipality level, to rehumanize society, bring people back together, get our moms and our dads and our great grandmas and our nanas, back into the fold. Because one thing I know growing up, if Nana saw somebody say something, and your mother was going to hear it before you made it home from school, period. Yes, that's how that went. Community watching community. It hasn't changed. That's been the story since the creation of African American History Month, the creation of mankind, is to watch out and take care of our neighbor. I see you, President Thomas.
President Thomas. It's a little distorted. Check, you're muted, President Thomas.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna piggyback on exactly what you were just talking about, Mayor Cross, and also President Delaney. One of the things I hear, and I was hoping that we could help our community and to help them understand that through this terrible pandemic, what has happened is that people have started to get better, to communicate with each other a little bit better. And they've learned to listen more, which was really surprising to some of the children that I've spoken to and have worked with during this time. And even the mom has said, well, you know, I didn't realize I haven't had a conversation with my child. I never really had a real conversation. I'd ask them, okay, you're back from school, but not what did you really do in school, but just do you have homework? And so it was just now they're learning to really be more with the family group hug, if you will, rather than independently doing things. And I think a lot of that has to do with too. I share this with a lot of the counseling that I provide, is that we don't have chores for people anymore. And so talking about the history, at one point you would, I know my parent always said, if you slept in that bed, you make it up. If you ate out that dish, you need to wash it, you need to clean whatever. Nowadays we have a dishwasher. We have kids actually not having to do those chores because you don't have to get wood anymore. You don't have to bring this in. And we forget that we have to give them something besides a tablet or a laptop or television or a game, PlayStation. We have to start having conversations. And I do want to say that I hope that this brings in an opportunity for all of us to work together so that we can go out into our community in Prince George's County and beyond and really talk about ways that we can start new conversations and get people to be more involved with each other rather than being so isolated and sitting home in your room and just playing with your video things. If you go down the street and you ask a young person, tell me something about a Black historian, actually, they can't tell you. It's
Right.
more than writing a report in
Right.
February,
Right.
It's a lot more to that. And we have to be able to encourage our families to not just talk about, what happened, in 1926 or beyond, but
Right.
we need to also talk about the person 10 years ago that made history. And the person that is, right today, you as a child can also make history. If you are doing good things, if you are putting yourself together, if you are going out there and fighting for causes, please vote. This is what we need to do. We have to encourage them and they too can make history. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
Oh, no, excellent point. Excellent point, President
Fantastic.
Thornton. I actually wanted to point out, I'm sorry, President Delaney, you were going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh.
Proceed.
Okay, absolutely. President Thornton, I actually wanted to also point out, now that you mentioned that, how do we get, the community more engaged in our social action organizations such as the NAACP?
Well, I'm going to tell you one of the things that we've decided to do, and I'm going to say this on out here so everybody can hear, because I'm going to put me across on on the platform right here and put her on the spot. I am hoping that I can get the municipalities to work with us on what I call a justice hub. We talked about how terrible things are happening. People are dying every day. Our children are seeing horrible things that's going on. Television is not helping us. And what we would like to do, and I've talked to Aisha Bravor, our state's attorney, and asked her if we could put together a justice hub. And she said, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, let me tell you, there's a couple of things. One, we can look at young people who have been a part of some traumatic experience,
Right.
and we can put a team together to go out to work with that young person or that adult who is involved in it. And it doesn't just mean physical, it can also mean, people who are abusive and so forth as well, because we don't want that traumatic experience to linger onto their life, all through their life, looking at that, thinking about that. And we can do this. So we're putting together like a little stress bag that they would work with. We have some advocates who are going to be working with them and stay with them for about 6 weeks. We have a social worker who's going to provide support and counseling as well. Great
Excellent.
opportunity for all of us to get together. We're also asking our superintendent, our CEO, to look at having the NAACP and other organizations coming to the schools and talk about civility. Let's be honest, we don't really talk about it. And that is why we don't do a good job with it, because we don't have a conversation. How do you respond to somebody who's mad at you and they're yelling at you? How do you respond? What do you do? And so we need to teach that. And in addition to that, we're also looking at in the Justice Hub, where we're going to have the 11th and 12th graders. They're going to be a part of a program where they're going to be working with our municipalities, we hope, and they'll be able to work with the chief of police, and they'll be doing some shadowing. They'll be shadowing in Aisha Brayboy's office, some law firms. And we want to recruit more people to go into law enforcement. So yes, people say, I don't want to be a police officer, but this is a stepping stone. If you go into that, you can go into the FBI. You can actually move on to the CIA, special services, all these things. So that is a plus for them, because they're saying, well, you know, I might like to do that. Plus, University of Maryland offers them, and that's the chief of police over there. If you actually sign up to be on the police department there, you can go to the University of Maryland for free. Can't get any better than that. And then our very last thing that we're doing is on the 4th and 3rd grade, we're going to be going in, working with those children and doing prevention things, you know, talking about how to behave, how to, you know, keep yourself safe, and how to not, you know, listen to people. And we as parents tend to think that we tell our young people all the things they need to know when they go out in the street. But I'll give you this really quickly. Think about this. It was a little girl who was standing out at the bus stop, and she had been there for about an hour and a half. The dad had dropped her off. He went back home thinking that she was going to catch the bus in a couple of minutes. And our bus service hasn't worked too well, you know that. So the little girl, about an hour and a half later, the father hears a knock on the door. And here is the little girl. Of course, he was stunned and shocked. He would have never left his 3rd grader out. So he took the 3rd grader back to school, or to school. But let me tell you what happens. And I know this may sound weird to you, but I have seen it many times. Children believe in the schools. They believe in teachers. They feel safe there. So let's just think about this. A person could drive up to that child and say to that child, oh, you know what? The buses are late and your teacher told me to come and pick you up. And what is your teacher's name? I forget. What's her name? And you know, that little 3rd grader is going to say, oh, Miss Taylor. Oh, yeah, that's right, Miss Taylor. Miss Taylor told me to come and get you. And then you know what that child is going to do? Even though the parents said don't get in there, they will get in the back of that car. And then we will not see that little child, perhaps never again. So we forget as parents that we really don't tell our children in a strong way of how to protect themselves, how to, you know, be safe. And you need to do things like safe words and stuff like that. So I'm just merely saying those are the things that we're going to be doing throughout the county. And we want all of you guys to participate. Because we need your voices. We want to put out surveys. We want to have conversations with people, just like what we're doing right now. But we can't do it unless we support each other. So I'm here to support Mayor Cross. I'm going to be supporting her whenever she needs me. We have got big things to do, and we've got intelligent people, and I'm glad they're, you know, Black females, you know, out there pushing and making a difference. And so I just wanted to, you know, to thank her for doing this too, as well. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, President Thornton. President Delaney, I want to point something out here. This is actually for everyone also. Please chime in on this one. But the era of slavery was ripe with heroes, and what I would call sheroes, if you will. Who would y'all consider some heroes of today within the African American community?
Well, obviously, there's President Michelle Obama, you know, because they go beyond just having been in the White House, but they've done a lot of things in terms of helping the community in Chicago. Michelle Obama's been going around promoting health. So I'd say those two right off the bat, and I guess they're too obvious. So.
President Thornton, Mayor Cross, do y'all have any that y'all kind of bless and sprinkle out there also? Some heroes of today? Who would you consider some heroes of today?
Well, I think of a hero, and I do think of, I thought about President Obama too as well, and Michelle Obama. But I also think about the single mom who is
Wow.
working the 2 jobs. You
Wow.
know, I think about the single dad, you know, who has to try to take care of a female, you know, that he's not done before, not used to. And
Come on.
either because of COVID or something happens, he is now in that role. And you know, he has to go to the drugstore for personal things. I mean, to me, those are heroes. And
Hmm.
those individuals are the ones who are saying, listen, it is what my nature says for me to do. It is what I need to do. And they don't question it. And I think those are the people who are heroes, sort of like right here on this panel. You know, President Delaney, I'm sure works a lot of hours,
Come on.
doing a
Come on.
lot of work. I'm not
Mhm.
even going to say that about mayors because they work all the time.
Yes,
And
Lord.
these jobs don't have a whole lot of money in them at all. You just praying that you can get through the day and do your real work that pays your bills, as
Come on.
well as as all the
Come on.
charity you give to people. And then people sometimes get upset and use profanity, call your names, and not happy that you're not able to support them. And it takes a little bit to understand when somebody thinks that the NAACP can save everybody, or that
Mhm.
every issue that you have, we are supposed to be able to cover. So if you don't go to work on a regular day, in your regular job on time, and your boss fires you, how can we help you? You know, you can't complain about the boss. You didn't go to work. Why did you not go to work, sir? I said, well, you know, people need a mental day.
Mm.
Okay, well, how many mental days have you had? 36 in a year. Well, then that's why you don't have a job now. You see, that's the kind of thing that you need to have common sense to let people understand, and they don't always know. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I would like to jump in there. Thank you so much for that. You know, I'm looking at and I pray I don't mess her name up, Dr. Kizmika Corbett.
Yes. Mhm.
And I'm going to bounce that with what President Thomas just said. She's 35 years old. Okay. She was
Mhm.
the immunologist who essentially
Mm.
did research and
Mhm.
developed the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine.
Wow.
Mhm.
35 years old. I mean, think about it. At 35 years old, where were we? Where were
That's
you?
right.
Ask
That's
that
right.
question.
Yeah.
You know, right now, what has been given to our children by which, you know, COVID-19 did a disservice to a lot of us by losing too many
Mhm.
too soon,
Right.
which has
Right.
also created this, you know, anxiety and depression in our society. But
Mhm.
it also gave our children the right to learn
Mm.
right there at
Mhm.
their fingertips every single day.
Absolutely.
I was the parent at the parent teacher orientation that said, don't take the computer out of my child's hands because she learned to read by playing Roblox.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay. One of the things that we need to recognize is you're never too old or too young to make that impact.
Come on now.
That's right. That's
You know,
right.
when you put a time limit on God, you put a time limit on your responsibility
Mhm.
to yourself, to your neighbors, to your community. There
Wow.
is nothing but time. The
Mhm.
only time that we don't have is breathless time. And right now, everyone breathe in, breathe out,
Mhm.
breathe in, breathe out. That's another moment for us to make a difference.
Yes. Yes,
We
Lord.
have to
Yes.
look at it that way. This is
Mhm.
not a plug and play approach. This is a marathon, not a race.
Come
I
on.
think that we need to look at it that way and encourage our children every day. We are saints, but sinners who fell down and got back up. Okay.
Mm.
None of us are perfect. And I think that once we encourage that very important fact in all of us, that none
Right.
of us are perfect, that we need to stop being so critical of folks.
Mm.
We need to stop backbiting and hating on our own kind. We need to lift as we rise.
That'll open it up for growth. That
We
will open
must.
a moment for growth.
We
Absolutely.
are our brother's keeper, and we are the servants of the people. And it's like you said, President Thomas, the job isn't for about the paycheck. If you
Mm.
came into public service for a paycheck, get ready to retire soon.
Look, I want to, and I want to make sure I leave some time towards the end because we're facing towards the end here. But I want to leave some time at the end, a few minutes for any individuals that may want to add something or speak or any suggestion out there. But still, I had something else I wanted to bring to the panel here, and actually, we harped on it earlier. I wanted to know basically when you look at what our kids, and we kind of bled into it a little bit, when we look at what our kids have faced, during this whole pandemic, and let's say when we're looking at the importance of social engagement, identity, and self-esteem in young lives, what are some of the things we can do for our young kids and younger adults that can, I guess, find a way to kind of encourage them or kind of promote that growth?
Well, I'd say, one, give them support in some of the endeavors that they want to take on. I have a grandson, and he's, would you believe he's interested in being a paleontologist? He is 6 years old. So
Well, now.
yeah, so we here in Dallas, we have a wonderful science museum. And they have, the dinosaurs. They have about 5 or 6 dinosaurs with the skeletons of them. And so I take him there as many times as I can and let him look at them. And of course, they've got all kinds of little science projects and things he can do at that museum. So I would say essentially, one, encourage and support them. And I think that's probably the most important thing. Now, let them know that you're there for them, regardless of what's happening. So.
Mayor Cross, you actually placed pretty high emphasis on some suggestions and some things that we can do in that. I wanted to open that particular question now that you have brought that up to everyone else. With that being said, what I want to do is jump back to you, President Thomas, before we open it up for everyone else to particularly say something, suggest something, if they had a question. I wanted to know basically what can be done from an advocacy policy perspective to push for programs and support.
Okay. Well, I want to say this. I at one point was an elected official. I was a school board member, and it's all about legislation. Collectively, we need to get together to put bills in, and we need to talk to our elected officials and encourage them to post those bills on the agenda, and we need them to fight for them, because the only way we can make real change is that it has to be in the law. We talk a good game and we have a good conversation, but I say to every single person this year, as it's an election year, the NAACP doesn't support any one candidate, but what we are saying to people is that you need to come out and vote. You need to read about your candidates that are out there. You cannot take a sheet of paper and just assume that this is what we need to do. We have to work really hard understanding the people that we're voting for. And if those people are coming to you once every 4 years just because it's election, that is not your candidate. And you need to ask them, what have you done lately? We didn't see you in our community. We need to demand that every elected official that's working with us need to be in our community at least twice a year. Have town hall meetings, have a conversation, and make them accountable, because sticking your name on a ballot and then with a list of people and saying all of us are going to do great jobs, and you're wondering, well, what job did you do? But you're only voting because you've seen the name over and over again. And I leave you with this last thing. I was helping someone hand out some literature last election before last. And I was a lady, she's about 76 years old. I think that's what she told me. And I asked her, I said, I want to give you some literature. And she said, oh, sweetie, you don't need to give me anything. My senator gave me our ballot for me to bring in. And I said, oh, well, who is your senator? She literally had to go in her pocket, dig all the way down in her purse to pull out the brochure or the little sheet that she had gotten from them to answer who her senator was, because she didn't know who the senator was. All she knew is it said, this is a Democratic official ballot. And in her mind, she was a faithful voter through all of the terrible things that we've happened back in the 60s and so forth. And she was determined she was going to vote no matter what. But the sad thing was, she did not have the education or the information. She only had a list of names. And because it was a senator's name on it, she thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. We have to expect more, and we have to encourage people to read. Yeah.
President Delaney, President Thomas, Mayor Cross, I am proposing now that we somehow find a way to do a part 2 to this session. I think there needs to be a part 2. I'll give it away to you, Mayor Cross. I want to open it up for any suggestions. Now we're towards the end here. I want to open up for any questions or any comments that anyone wanted to add in. Mayor Cross, you can, if you'd like, you can take it away from that point. But if anyone has any questions or anything like that, feel free. The floor is open now. You can utilize the hand raised button on your screen, or you could type something into the chat box.
T. Wood, before we go into that, I just want to say thank you for moderating today so efficiently. You know, when you bring on powerhouses from ASALH, from the NAACP, from municipality, you never know what you're going to get. So here to you, sir. To everyone that joined us, thank you again. Again, I'm Mayor Cross. It has been my indeed honor. You got it, part 2. We can do this. We're going to work the schedules of these magnificent panelists here. And without further ado, I see a lot of hands raised, so I won't take up any more time. Over to you, T. Wood.
All right. I'm trying to, let's see here. I'm trying to catch a name here from one of the hands raised. Right now, it is not. Okay, so I'm Armstrong. Armstrong, please go ahead and provide what you would like to state. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
And I don't know what's going on in the school system right now because I don't have any children. But what I'm noticing that we're losing standards of morals and values. I've actually talked to a teenager one time and she didn't even know what morals meant. And I'm seeing a lack of compassion, empathy, humility. I like to see that being part of the education system. And I think that may help a lot of people with depression, because if you don't have anyone to go to that can show you compassion or empathy, you're pretty much on your own unless you seek assistance.
Wow. Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. I see Sergeant Charles, your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the time. I just want to first acknowledge Mayor Cross. You know, I just met you not too long ago, and you are a beautiful woman in soul, mind, and body, as you embody our community and everyone else on this line. As a father, as a police officer, as a PTA president from the past, nieces and nephews in the school system, grew up in Prince George's County. I want to thank each one of y'all having this phone call and this Zoom meeting. Just real quick, I would love to see, and I would love to be a part of it, I would love to see that we teach our young people about local government. Our local government for the politicians that are in school board, county council, and the mayors. If we can educate our people in Prince George's County about local government, we can empower the things that you said in legislation in the Senate and the delegate for state of Maryland, because most young people don't know who is who in our Prince George's County area. And if they know they have an opportunity to participate and support, then we can definitely educate them better to get these bills passed.
Absolutely.
And let me thank you so much, Sergeant Charles. I appreciate your words and the wisdom that you spoke into teaching about the local government. See, municipality government is a lot different than state level government. You know, municipality may have a commissioner, it may have a city council, we have senators, we have the House of Representatives, those are the same. Municipality has a mayor or a mayor pro tem. We have a president. Municipalities have an ethics commission. We have the judicial branch or the Supreme Court. So that blending that chain of understanding, it's so critical, because from municipalities grow the state legislative abilities to make change happen for all of us. So you're absolutely right, sir. And I will tell you that the Maryland Municipal League actually does have a program which is set up for fourth graders. If I were mayor program, and it's a writing sample essentially where fourth graders are allowed to actually, you know, get recognition for creating successful ways to grow their community, get them to look at where they can make an impact and change. That's a fourth grader. That's 9 years old.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor Cross. We're running again very short on time, but I want to make sure I get Ms. Don. Ms. Don, I see you
Hello.
there.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Hey there.
Thank you for allowing me to attend the meeting today. I have two comments. One, we have every single thing we need in Glenarden to make us the greatest in PG County. Sometimes I think we don't work together, and finding that unity within would help us so much. Like, yes, we do have a problem in the school system. We absolutely do. But I think it stems not from the school system. I think it stems from the neighborhoods. Our kids don't have enough to do in the evening. They don't have enough support. They're running rampant. I see it because I'm in the school every day, picking my child up. I see how they act. There are things that we have great churches in this area that could lend a hand. We have programs, Saturday schools that could be awesome, but because of COVID, they're shut down. But we have the resources right here. We just need someone to come in and organize it to get us all on the same path. There are things kids need to learn other languages. If they don't know other languages, it sets them back a little bit. They're not on the even playing field in our school systems. The school system is used as a babysitter. Well, what are we going to do after they get out of the babysitting? What programs? Some of the parents can't afford after school programs that will cost. Well, we got a strong community. Somebody can allow the kids to go there, learn these things that you're saying about government. They have the aviation program right here at Glenarden Baptist that they could probably take part in. That would give them certification in hours so that they would have something to think about a future.
Wow.
I know NASA has a program, but trying to get into that, somebody has to be the forefront in these programs to get our youth to be part of that. I looked into it. It's hard to, as an individual parent, to do that without some type of, I guess, gateway into those programs. My child is in middle school, and I'm telling you, even after school programs to get him in, if you weren't part of some type of group to get them in, I couldn't get them in any program in after school.
Okay.
So as a parent in a community, I love this community. This community is awesome, but we could do better. When you asked who would be my hero in the community, well, I have to be honest with you. The old chief was my go-to. He was who I looked up to. My son, since we've moved here, and we moved here when he was 7. He's 12 now. Every single year, the chief would take pictures with him. He would take him around to all the police officers. He would let him play in the car. My son wanted to be, till this day, I just asked him again yesterday, are we still on the track? Do you still want to be a police officer? It's an absolute for him. Yeah, and this is since 7. He's still on that. I still want to be a police officer. I want to be a judge. But as a parent, I don't know a judge. The only police officers I know are in this area. And every year I take the opportunity, wherever I know that they're going to be, I take that opportunity to introduce them again, to take pictures again, so that you will know when my child comes up, you will know who he is because he's taking pictures. He will know you and you will know him, but it has to go further.
Excellent, Don.
So thank you.
Excellent. I'm sorry. Anyone want to, from the panelists, want to comment on it? Excellent, Don. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, if I may say one, I'm sorry. Go right ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to comment that for the city of Glenarden, we are looking at summer work programs for young folks, from the age like 16 plus, 32 hours, something very small, but allows them to get introduced to that municipality lifestyle. We have web media specialists, we have our public works department, and even sitting in my chair there at mayor, because mayor is a part-time job, so I have my regular job, but then I come in, I do my part-time job. So during the day, they're able to support and see how municipality government works. The other thing is we do have, the Santa with a Badge program. The emphasis of that is not only just to, take a very, 12 lucky youth to go shop for Christmas, but the emphasis is to humanize the police force, to let you know that they are there as caretakers and
So
community
important.
are people. So
Wow.
I am so honored that you recognize Chief O'Donnell in such a beautiful and passionate way. He was a father to many, and that's really where you are in a small municipality. All of us are the family. And I just bought on a handful of police officers, swore them in this week, and you hit the nail on the head. The message that I left them with is you live and breathe this family that you have now sworn and to protect and defend. When you breathe as a family in municipality, you breathe as a family in the state. Grassroots is where we are. And that's what, President Thomas talked about earlier. When you take it to the polls, look to the people that will breathe the family that we're hoping to see our children's children live in, not the one for us today. That's what we are doing. We're breathing the family of our children's children. I think deeper than today. Thank you, President Thomas. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I just wanted to say one thing, Mr. Woodbury, is that I would like very much, I'm planning, and I'm so glad that Dawn said that, and I apologize for calling you Dawn. I don't see your last name on that, but anyway.
Same.
It's Dinah.
That's
Okay.
okay. Fine. Well, I would like to have a conversation with the parents across the county, because we need to really get our school up and running. There is no reason that we are still second from the bottom. We get a lot of money. And then right at this point, we're looking at opportunities for our young people to go places and do things. If you don't go around and travel and know what's happening in other parts of the county or the states or what have you, and our kids don't go anywhere. There are no trips that are valued, nowadays, because we're saving the money. We're testing and retesting. But I think that with the NAACP, we can ask for equity, fairness, quality of education. And I would like to have this, and I hope if I can share the information with Mayor Cross, that you'll participate with us and get out there so that we can have a conversation and help our parents get into our schools, be the parents that you want to. If your child is misbehaving, and I did this, I'm from the old school as a principal. If your child is having a problem, I'm not about to suspend them. I'm gonna call your mother. And the mother or the father, they only need to come one time, and once you bring them in there and you can say, listen, that's not a problem. I can call the parent again. But when you're in there, when those children know that the teacher or the principal is not going to call them because they're not really interested in having the parents come in. See, that is not a good thing. I think if you want us to make sure there's no behavior in the classroom, that's why you have your mother and your father, the grandmother, the aunt, the uncle. All of these people can come in and have a conversation, and that makes our schools better. So I'm going to open up the date for it. I will send that out to Mayor Cross, and you guys can look at it. I would really like for you to come and share, and we hope to have maybe 500 or 600 parents, if not more, to talk about what we need to do. And then we're going to write it down, make sure that the superintendent, we're looking to change the name. I keep saying superintendent, the CEO, but I was on the school board task force, and we have suggested they go back to a all elected school board. We made a lot of changes. We talked about the ethics and how our school needs to run. Do you not realize that some of our children never see a book an entire week? Because we're ditto papering on them, copy sheet, nobody's reading. So this is something we need to work on, and getting our kids back to reading and helping them to build their language. We had a wonderful person a teacher, and she came on, and I'll say this real quick. She came on, and she was a student at Temple College, University. And she said that she was number 5 in Prince George's County, the top of the list in her class, and she went to Temple and she took remediation classes for the entire first year. Now, something's wrong with that picture. Because if we're giving A's and B's, and I thought, wait a minute, I need to ask her why. And when I asked her, you know what she said? She said, Ms. Thomas, because there were so many behavior issues that if you just did your work, doesn't matter how, and you were nice and quiet, you would get a grade. She didn't understand that until she finally realized when she got to Temple and she couldn't write a sentence that was, appropriate. So that's what we have to go back to. But thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again, Dawn. Okay.
Y'all, I have to cut it in because we are absolutely, first off, President Thomas, thank you, thank you, thank you. President Delaney, thank you, thank you. Mayor Cross, thank you for even setting this up. As I said before, y'all, we have to do a part two. I want to use this moment right now to go ahead and allow y'all to have a brief last words. I'll actually start it off by saying, look, you all, I really appreciate y'all coming together and listening to each other, taken out time to actually consider what each individual has to say. And we did it with a positive energy within this entire Zoom room. That's the way that things progress forward. If you were to consolidate everything that we said, being able to listen to each other, be considerate, respectful, that whole thing opens up the door for all of us to progress forward. And I want to see each of the panelists had any last words they wanted to say, starting with you, President Delaney.
Yes, obviously I want to do a commercial for ASALH. As you know, we are celebrating Black History Month, and this program fits perfectly into what we typically do during Black History Month. So please go to our website, www.aslh.org. Jackie Woody has put that in the chat. And also talk to Jackie Woody and form a partnership with the local ASALH branch in Prince George's County. She does a wonderful job. And of course, as I said, ASALH was designed partially to make sure our young people learn their history, which I believe this has been something I've been pushing for 50 years, that if our kids know their history, if they know where they're coming from, it indeed will affect their behavior.
Thank you. President Thomas.
Well, I just want to say, yes, and I'm going to join. So President Delaney, look out for me. I try to join everything. And I want to encourage people to consider the NAACP. Even if you don't join, I still want you to come to our meetings. We are doing a lot of great things, and we've increased our membership over 300 since I've been in office, and that was last year, February. I'm looking for 5,000 good people. We are at almost 1,500, and I know we can do it. The more voices, the stronger we are. So I encourage you to certainly think about some of the civic groups to join, because that's a way to get your voice out there as well. Thank you. And thank you, Mayor Cross and Mr. Woodbury. You did a great job, and good meeting you, Mr. Delaney, and everyone else. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Mayor Cross.
Yes.
Thank you all so much. I'm in awe of how well this went. President Delaney, President Thomas, T. Woody, I am so blessed right now by your presence and what you've done for our community. President from, all ages are just amazing right now. And I think we need to share this and air this, and I will release the rights for the NAACP as well as ASALH, to put it on your work sites as well.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to be broadcasting this on Comcast 71, on Verizon 16, www.cityofglenarden.org. We are bringing forth our communities. We are a city on the move, and I am Mayor Cashenna A. Cross, dedicated to moving this mission forward. I thank you all so very much. Hear to my cast. And we will have a part two. I'll work the schedule, I promise. But I just want you to know that you can always reach out to your municipality leadership. Do not be afraid to bring your complaints, bring your suggestions as well. Bring your applause, because we do need to be patted on the back every now and then. So I thank you all so much. Back to you, T. Wood.
Okay, excuse me. And just to end it all and keep all encouraged, I'd like to add this. Make sure that if you are feeling, it's okay to not feel okay, and express it, okay? Finding someone to express it and to be able to open up to a professional is absolutely okay. Remember, sometimes in life we must fail in order to succeed.
That's
But one
right.
thing
That's
must
right.
remain certain, that at no point do we ever, ever give up. All
Thank
right,
you.
signing
That's
out.
good. Mhm. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Okay.
Y'all take care now.
All right. Take care, everyone. Be safe. Mhm.
All right.
Good.